Hello, my name is Starlight. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'm reaching out to all of you beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is. And this is a weeping willow tree, but the leaves aren't quite long enough to do the video I was hoping to do today. So anyway, that's why I'm standing next to this tree. Starlight, I need a hug. So this big old tree is gonna give Starlight a hug. So anyway, besides Starlight, yes, I'm one of those tree huggers out there that everybody makes fun of. So anyway, I really hope you're getting out in nature, and also to take some time out for yourself and love yourself. And if you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome, and you could find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman. Plus, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, don't forget, you can leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. And you could share my videos with your family, your friends, your cat, your dog. Don't forget, you could check out my playlist, and you can find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman Starlight. So anyway, today the video is, I know I have, but have you ever wished that you could have been somebody else? Maybe when you were a kid, or maybe when you were growing up like a teenager, or, like in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or maybe even now, especially when you, I don't want to say older, but when you mature more, well, sometimes even people that are older really still need a lot of maturing to do. So it doesn't really matter about age as far as maturity goes. So maybe at your age now, because now your body is not quite the same as it used to, and then you get to see a lot of young people running around. But anyway, this video is for people who can't accept who they are, like maybe when you look in the mirror, or when you put your clothes on, you don't like what you see. And so this video is for people who have a hard time being who they are and accepting who they are. And I know I had that problem when I was really, really super young, not feeling comfortable in my own skin, not liking my body, and as I grew up, and matured more, then I learned to love myself, and now I really love myself more than ever. So anyway, and that is about finding out who you are and letting go of what other people say about what they think about you. And that goes along with your mom and dad. Ouch! I know, your mom and dad, right? Don't you, a lot of times people would think that your mom and dad knows you best. But when you become an adult, they don't really know you at all, do they? Not at all, really. My mom and dad don't really know me as well as they think. And you're probably amazed by that. Starlight, why? Well, there's like I said, are you wearing a mask around your family members? And, around my mom, I'm pretty much who I am with my mom, but it's different with my dad. And I haven't seen my parents in a while now on this journey, so I do talk to them on the phone, but it is different. They have different belief systems, and they've been programmed a different way separately. So but as far as you go, do you look at ladies, do you look at certain ladies and like, oh my, I would love to have her hair, I love the way her body looks, maybe even the things that she has, or owns, or maybe the man that she's with, ooh, I would like to be in her shoes to go with that guy, or guys, maybe there's some of you that don't like the color of your skin. Maybe you wish you were a different color. That does happen. There's a lot of people that have that problem, and instead of accepting who they are, they end up hating the other types of people that are different color. And it doesn't matter what color you are, is that we all bleed red. So, but there's times that a lot of people go through that throughout their life is wishing that they had a different skin color and not really loving themselves the way God really wants them to love themselves and accept themselves for who they are. So a lot of times in that case is people will go that aren't happy with who they are, they will lower their standards and go with somebody that is easy to go with because they're not really loving themselves, where they know they could probably go and get someone better as a girl or a guy, but it's because they don't love themselves enough that they just take what is easy for them to get. So I hope that is not you, is just taking something because it's easy to get, and because you might not love who you really are. And so that is, a lot of people go through that, is that they don't love who they are, and then they go with somebody but they're really not happy with who they're with. So hopefully that is not you, is just going for something because you think it's easy, to go with that girl or that guy, and maybe they're available, and that girl or that guy might be not the kind of guy or girl you want to be with, and maybe you really got your heart set on another guy or a girl, depending on what sex you are. Maybe you're eyeballing another girl or another guy out there in the world somewhere, and maybe you do know them pretty well, and maybe you'd like to get to know them more. So, and that is, you desire something better, but it's not about your outward appearance. It's about who you are inside, and if that guy, say if you maybe you're with a girl or a guy right now that you're not really completely happy with, maybe they don't meet everything that you desire for them to be, and instead of going for someone that you have to lower your standards to go down to their level, and you might see a girl or a guy, depending on your sex, is that you want to go with somebody on a higher standard, somebody that's really working on themselves. And maybe you're afraid that they're not going to accept you for who you are, for what you have to offer them. And now if you are doing the inner work and you're working on yourself, and that there's a lot of work that is involved in doing the inner work. It's facing your shadow side, and it's being real with who you are and accepting who you are, accepting your flaws and not caring what other people think, so. And if you did all the inner work, you've been working your ass off on becoming a greater version of yourself, and then you go up to that guy or girl that you really, really, really want. You're with a girl that you're not really into, or a guy that you're really not into. They were easy to get. You didn't really have to work very hard to get in them relationships, right? But then you go to the one, you finally build up enough courage to go to the one that you really desire, because you do know a lot about her or him, depending on who you are, if you're a male or a female, and then they don't accept you. So then what? Maybe they don't accept your skin color, for who you are, or, maybe they're not all what you thought that they were to be. So, and it's not about the outward, it's about really the inward. So don't look on the outward side of a person, because looks are not everything, believe me. I had to learn that at a very young age, realizing that. And so you really have to work hard for the one that you really desire. And if you are lowering your standards to go with someone out there, then you're missing out on the real deal. So Starlight wouldn't want you to miss out on, if you can have that trophy wife or that trophy husband, so be mindful of the one that you really desire in life. And, you got to learn to accept yourself and love yourself, and don't compare yourself to others, please. We don't know everything about the people that we see out in public, and Starlight goes up to a lot of strangers out here, and I talk to a lot of women and men, and on the outside, people look great, don't they? Well, if I say outward appearance, And then, I have met some beautiful people, and it doesn't matter what they look like on the outside. It is about the heart. What is their heart say to you? That is what you really want to focus on. So don't really compare yourself to your friends, or maybe even at church. When you go to church, you see, like, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt where, wow, look at that perfect little family there. They're all dressed up so nice, and the guys are wearing their suits. The boys are wearing little suits. The girls, the mommy and the daughters are wearing beautiful dresses, and so prim and proper, and so their hairstyle, not a hair out of their hair is so neatly put up and looks so pretty, or their hair is down and looks so beautiful, and the clothing, the colors, and you're like, wow, look at that perfect little family. And don't fall for that either. Church members, just like anybody else, they learn, to dress a certain way to please the pastor at the church. So a lot of times when it comes to church people, it's an act. It's just a stage, just like life in itself. It's a stage that we're in, and I hope you're not out there acting and doing a part, and so, because this is the matrix, whether you get that or not, is, we gotta really love who we are. And if you don't love who you are, that means you gotta work on who you are. And if somebody, that guy or girl that you desire, if you've done all the inner work and they can't accept you for who you are, then you're trying to go get with the wrong one, because their way of thinking is, they might not, they might be desiring something totally different than even all the work that you've done. That means you don't line up with that person, and so they might want different things to be fulfilled and happy with, and maybe you don't have those things, and so you could have been desiring the wrong type of girl, because a lot of people on the outside, they look so good, but even it is just kind of weird. Even Starlight being cleaning houses for years, I had to go and knock on a lot of doors and meet a lot of people after I got hired for a job. And I have to say, just like a house, I had an old pastor, the first church that I went to, the outside of the house didn't look that great. But when I went inside, wow, I was like, wow, look at this. I would have never thought this house looked this good inside. The outside needed a lot of work, but the inside was so beautiful. I was like, wow, so it's not about the outside, it's about the inside, so you can't judge a book by its cover. Is just like a house or a person, just because a house could look beautiful on the outside, hey, it looks good on the outside, right? And Starlight's, like I said, I've been in lots of houses, I've worked with some really beautiful people that had, making good ass money. The outside of the house looked really good. And when they brought, I am a professional. I could go in your house, it could be upside down, nasty, stinky, and all that, and Starlight would always make those people feel really good about their home, even if it was gross, even if it was disgusting, even if they felt bad. My job wasn't to make them feel bad or guilty. So Starlight had a way with people, is like, what, I would walk in their house and be honest with them at the same time and say, oh, this is nothing, believe me, and they would believe it, because I am being honest and real, because I have seen worse, believe me, I've seen worse, some of the places that I had to clean, so don't let the outside of people, fool you on thinking that they got something to offer you, as far as you not liking or loving yourself enough to accept who you are. You know, there's things about my body and my face and my hair, you know, I can pick out everything on me that I'm like, you know, I don't like this part about me, but I love who I am. I've come to accept my body. I've come to accept my hair, you know, even if I'm aging or whatever, you know, is that because it is not about the outside, it's about who I am in the inside. You know, just like anyone, we all are gonna age, and things are not gonna quite look the same, whether it's your hair, your skin, your teeth, your body, your, you know, you know, all kinds of body parts are gonna change as you age. So you just have to love yourself. And if you don't love yourself and you know, you wish you could trade places, believe me, you don't. Starlight thought that a long time ago as a, you know, a young teenager, not loving myself, you know, because of the things I went through as a child. But as I got older and gone through enough hell in my life, I said, you know what, I would never want to change places, because I always believed if I could pick out a girl and say, yeah, that girl right there, make my own, you know, like what is it, Weird Science, where they make their own chick, you know, they make their own female on there. And Starlight loved that movie, but that was an old movie. Weird Science, you know, where these two teenagers decide on their computer to shape out what kind of body size, you know, they wanted a girl, and her hair and all this stuff, and then boom, there she was, you know. So if we could do that, what would that person look like? Starlight said, you know, not that I really want to come back to planet Earth ever again, but if I ever had to, if the universe just made Starlight come back, you know, I love who I am now and how I look. I would want to come back as just the way I am now, you know. So would you want to come back to planet Earth and look the same way, or would you want to change? So that is the question for you today. So anyway, I love you so much. Love who you are, inside and out. Accept all your flaws. You know, people are going to point out your flaws. Tell them, you know what, that's okay. You got flaws too, right? Yeah, they got flaws too. So don't let anybody bother you, because if you're doing the best that you can do, it doesn't matter what they say. You got, you know what? I only answer to one out here in the world, and that's the universe, God. That's the only one I have to answer to. I don't have to answer to anybody else. So anyway, I love you so much. This is Starlight. You could give this video a thumbs up. You could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, you can leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. And you can also share this video with your family, your friends. And I keep on hearing the crows. I'm going to say the crows. And what animal haven't I picked out? A turtle. We're going to pick a turtle. And also, you can check out my playlist and follow me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that's Kathy with a K, Dingman Starlight. I love you all. Love you. You got to love yourself the way you are, the way God created you. If you don't like what you look like or who you are, you can change. So I love you so much. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight. Love, light, and peace.